Roblox is a game engine. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that. The company's entire slogan is empowering imagination, which, given recent events, kind of ironic. Anyway, Roblox tends to have a lot of creative people making games for their platform. That makes sense, right? The more imaginative you could be, the better game dev you would be, and, makes sense. Roblox awards that, right? Well, let's face it, Roblox is a game specifically geared towards children, and that part's a no-brainer. Children, however, generally don't have jobs and as a result, no money, meaning that Roblox is kind of their best way to play games. And, well, there are a lot of good games on Roblox. You've got Doors, you've got, I'm actually pretty out of the loop when it comes to good Roblox games. I'm sure as hell not going to say Steal a Brain Rot's a good game. Point is, there are a lot of good games on Roblox, and a lot of games that have stolen IPs, basically entirely ripped off games that are damn near one-to-one with their original counterparts, and otherwise scummy practices that make as much money as possible. I have a few games that I do want to talk about specifically here, however, this does not mean that these are the only games that do this. This is a platform-wide issue, and if I talked about all of them, I wouldn't ever see the sun again. And also, if I did talk about all of them, I would lose the attention of the Gen Alpha audience without having Subway Surfers gameplay on the side, and then I would lose money, and I don't like that, because we all know money makes the world go round. The game that really tipped me off to how much of a problem this actually was is a fairly new asymmetrical game, because the platform needs more of those, right? It's called Violence District, and it's actually pretty simple. The killer, using any of the killers in the game, each with a special power unique to them, stalks and kills the survivors by knocking them down and putting them on spikes. If you spike a survivor 3 times, they die fully. If you're a survivor, you have to complete 5 generators and escape by pulling a lever, with your only true defense being pallets. Yeah, I'm done with this bit. It's just Roblox Dead by Daylight. It's not even like, haha, we took inspiration from Dead by Daylight, like Forsaken did. Still hate mentioning that game. This is like the 3rd time in a row I've had to mention it, and I hate it. No, this is basically a one-to-one copy of Dead by Daylight, without having anything that makes Dead by Daylight appealing in the first place, like licensed characters. A Xenomorph and, all sorts of cool licensed characters, and what does Violence District have? Well, still Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees and a guy from Dark Souls? I'm sure these guys are licensed. Sure, totally. Every game mechanic in Violence District is stripped straight from Dead by Daylight, which, is not the game you should be taking inspiration from, given what's been happening recently. I have some hours on Dead by Daylight, and I'm a fairly competent Hag, Xenomorph, and Singularity main. This is literally just a Dead by Daylight. The killers don't even have unique killer powers. Most, if not all, are ripped from Dead by Daylight as well. Like the Subject Killer, who is just the Demogorgon, or the Veil, who is just the Huntress that can throw through walls, or Jason, who has Wraith's power for some reason. There's a one-to-one rip of the Legion in this game down to the style of the chase theme, animation, and sounds. Of course, this wouldn't be the biggest deal in the world if this game didn't have any microtransactions in it, right? This isn't even the only game that does it like this. Hell, it's not even the only game in the same genre that does it like this. But it is so blatant in this case that it's scummy, and they still pull 20,000 players. Again, this wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if they didn't have microtransactions and a VIP Game Pass, but it does. The only original thing in this game is the lobby, and not even the music. Speaking of the music, not a single soundtrack, aside from one. There is one soundtrack, one track in this game that is original. Every other one I can find online, and not even all of them are non-copyrighted. A lot of them are copyrighted in some way, such as Hydrogen by Moon, which is the Hotline Miami killer. He has Hydrogen as his chase theme. That's a copyrighted song. I don't see any credits in the description for it. I don't see any credits in the description for any of the songs. Which is, very scummy. That feels very scummy and kind of illegal. I can't lie. Unless they're funneling money to Moon, who made Hydrogen, but I doubt that. This isn't even the only example of them just stealing. I can find every single soundtrack in this game on YouTube on a video somewhere. Like I can find the Dark Souls guy who was made by an independent creator. It's a really cool chase theme. It's really cool, but it was taken for this game. The Friday the 13th game had its chase theme taken for this game. Point is, Violence District is very much so a cash grab. It feels like a cash grab, and a successful one at that. Again, it makes sense. Children might not be able to play Dead by Daylight because they don't have a lot of money, or their parents say no, so obviously this would have been a cash cow on Roblox, but it is still incredibly scummy. Believe it or not though, this isn't the only Dead by Daylight clone we're talking about today. There's been another one that I found that is very similar. Kind of. See, Violence District is a clone, but FNAF Hunted is a fan game. Take that with a massive grain of salt though. They take gameplay of Dead by Daylight and make it their own. Instead of pallets, you have doors and the ability to jump, and survivor-only vents. Kind of like Flee the Facility. In fact, I probably should say that this is more of a Flee the Facility fan game than a Dead by Daylight fan game, but whatever. Now, I'm not concerned about any of that, I'm not concerned about that. The thing I'm concerned about is the microtransactions in this game. For a bit of context, Scott Cawthon, before he gave the rights of FNAF to Steel Wool Studios, had not only accepted FNAF fan games, but had embraced it, even opening a FNAF fan game universe initiative, with a caveat. See, devs were free to make these games whenever, but they weren't allowed to make money off of it. So tell me why this game has some of the most egregious microtransaction strategies I've seen in a while outside of those scam obbies. Again, the gameplay is interesting, but it's chock full of cash prompts where they expect me to take out my wallet and pay for more skins that are purely cosmetic. I also just don't think the game was properly thought out. The killer chance is atrocious. I've played it for like 20 hours at this point to get getting footage and all that, and I've only gotten killer twice. Oh, but anything for more microtransactions, am I right? This obviously isn't the only game to use licensed or otherwise someone else's character to profit off of. There are countless multiplayer granny games, and I even think the Sonic.exe The Disaster was taken down because it was making money. There are right ways to do this though, such as in Outcome Memories, may God rest your soul. The characters are licensed, but the devs weren't making any money directly from the game. This, I feel, is what makes it acceptable to use characters like this. If you're not doing it for any monetary gain and are simply doing it for the artistic interpretation of that character, or how they'd act in certain scenarios that they otherwise never would be in, like in Outcome Memories, then you really aren't doing anything wrong. It's when you start to add money to the equation that it starts to feel scummy, in my opinion. But I feel the most egregious ones that do this are the games that rip off indie games in specific. AAA games, fine. Like big companies, sure. Rip them off. People pirate those games anyway. Like, no one's gonna bat an eye at you if you say you pirated Breath of the Wild. But on smaller developers? Let's take, for example, the game Buckshot. This is just a ripoff of Buckshot Roulette. Except now it's multiplayer and in Roblox. There is no other difference. Maybe a few items are different, but otherwise it's fundamentally the exact same game. And they're making money off of it. They didn't even credit the creator of the game in the description, or in the credits. They didn't even credit the original creator of Buckshot Roulette in the game's description, or in the credits. Funny thing is, because they're making money off of this game and how expensive some of the microtransactions are in this Buckshot game, you're spending more money on the microtransactions instead of just buying the game on Steam. It's like $3. And I'm pretty sure some of the game passes in Buckshot are like 400 Robux, which equates to about $5. So, math ain't mathing there. The issue is that they aren't making a fan game. Not really. The issue is that they're creating competition for the original game without the price tag. Which, as you can imagine, probably hurts indie devs a lot more than it would, say, Activision. Like, I have my own gripes with Reminiscent Zombies, but at least they're ripping off Activision and not an indie dev. Should these games be held accountable? Yeah, I think so. Because they're hurting the reputation of Roblox even more than it already has been hurting. Which they do not need help with. They do not need help with their reputation being hurt. You know, they're not going to be held accountable, probably. Roblox is pretty fickle in that they don't care as long as they're making money, and these games are practically printing the stuff. So, I guess the moral of the story is, don't be creative. Just copy someone else's work and profit off of it. Come on. That is terrible advice. Never come to me looking for advice. Anyways, if you liked the video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. Join the community Discord and subscribe if you want to. And I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.